everybody to the Single and Stilettos Show. I'm Suzanne Oshima, and I'm a matchmaker and dating coach at Dream Bachelor and Bachelorette, and I'm also the founder of Single and Stilettos. Today we have on our show Robert Manni, and he is the author and radio show host of the Guy's Guide to Love. And today we're talking about how women could get a second date with a guy. But before we get into the topic, Robert, I would love for you to tell our audience a little bit about you.
Okay, thanks so much, Suzanne. It's a pleasure to be back on your show. Yes, my background's marketing and advertising. I'm a novelist. My book is The Guy's Guide to Love. It's a kind of a male version of Sex and the City. I also am the host of Guys Radio, which is a weekly podcast available on iTunes and Blog Talk Radio. And I'm a syndicated blogger. My website is robertmanni, manni.com.
Great. Well, Robert, let's just jump into this topic. How can a woman get a second date with a guy? Like, can you give us some great tips on that?
Well, one thing is, I'd say number one is have confidence. I mean, if the guy asked you out, and most times in the first date, the guy will ask a woman out. It's not always, but let's assume that's the case.
Right.
So you're in good stead right there because the guy has asked you out, so he's interested. So it's like, don't blow it. Guys always say that if a woman goes out with them, that means they probably have considered sleeping with them. So it's up to them to kind of work their way up the food chain and earn that right. Mm-hmm. So for both people, you're both interested. So you're out on the first date. That's a good thing.
Right.
I think showing up reasonably on time. A woman can be, a little bit late. It's her prerogative. But you should, not leave the guy hanging around for like a half hour. 15 minutes is the standard New York rule. 15 minutes doesn't even mean being late in New York. So I'd say, one, have confidence. Two, show up within about the first, 15 minutes of the anointed time. And then three, don't drink too much on that first date. If you do drink and the guy's drinking, have one drink and then switch over to club soda or whatever. You don't want to start to let your guard down on that first date. And he's going to be, as you watch him, the guy's going to be watching you. So guys don't want to, they don't want to really get down and party with a woman they just met for the first time in terms of drinking too much, because who knows, loose lips and all of that kind of stuff. So take it slow with the alcohol.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good point.
I think also a woman should, dress the part. Depending on where you're going, you don't want to overdress to the point where the guy's going to be uncomfortable, but you want to dress up to make yourself look good and make sure that he shows up and looks good also.
Yeah, and that's really, really important because men are very visual. So on a first date, you want to show up, look like Robert said, looking good, but not overdressed and looking like you tried too hard, right?
Yeah, I always liked it if I met a woman for the first time and she had a dress on, regardless of the situation. If it's in the summer, whatever, and you go into an outdoor cafe to have a glass of wine or whatever, that's sexy. And that's feminine, and I think every guy likes that, and that has nothing to do with, you can be super fit and have muscles and all that stuff, but guys like women to be women also and, really look great in a dress. So even if it's a casual dress, I think that's a good idea.
Right. Now, these have been some great tips. Now, what about things that she should project on the date to him that would make him want to go out with her again?
Well, I think she should project the same things to him that he should project to her, and that she should talk about like what she does and why she loves to do it and what her aspirations and dreams are and what she's doing to to get where she wants to go. I also think she should ask him, a lot of times you have these first dates and one person's asking a lot of questions, the other person's doing a lot of answering, and then it's like, okay, time's up, you get the check and that's the end of it. And that's not fun for anybody, and I think both people usually leave thinking like, what happened? So I think make it a conversation where you don't have to tell everything about yourself. In fact, you shouldn't, but you want to ask some open-ended questions and kind of get to know the guy. Be yourself. Take the time to get to know the guy. Guys like to talk about themselves, and it makes them feel, it's a way of relaxing them, making them feel good about themselves. But don't let the guy dominate the conversation either.
No, exactly. And I think this is really, really important because I hear a lot of my male clients complain about this, is that when I set them up on dates, if a woman talks too much about herself and doesn't ask him anything about himself, and they just feel like they're there to listen to her, like basically on her soapbox, talk about herself. So it is really, really important that you get to know the guy. And I know a lot of ladies out there can talk a lot, but you got to get to know him and really start asking him questions about himself, right?
Yeah, and I think it works both ways also. I think for a woman, you don't want to just hear the guy talk. I mean, you want to get to know the guy because you're still qualifying him. But on the other hand, you want him to be interested in you as an individual. If he's like just drooling over the table saying stuff like "you're hot," that's not going to get too far. So you really want a guy who's going to be a gentleman and is going to ask the same time of questions to you that you want to ask and you ask of him.
Great. So what's another tip on how a woman could get a second date?
I think if she had a good time, it's not a bad idea. What I always did as a guy, I'd send a text afterwards and say, I had a really good time, and then see if I got a response. And I think if a woman has a good time, she can, and the guy picks up the check. And if the guy asks the woman out, he should pick up the check. And if she asks him out, he should probably still offer to pick up the check. But it's okay for her to send him a note, a text saying, I had a great time, and maybe let's do it again or something. Because the guy's not going to think less of you. He's going to think more of you for taking that step. It's going to make him feel good. And anytime you make the person on the other side of the table feel good, they're going to want to be with you, whether it's in romance, in business, or anything else. People stay with people because they feel good being around them. So you want to project that best version of yourself so the other person wants to be with you.
Exactly. That's a great point. So ladies, when you send that text of, I had a great time, you should also say thank you, because that's etiquette to say thank you for, taking me out last night. I had a really good time. So, and like Robert said, the guy's not going to think anything less of you that you reached out to him. In fact, I think he would think more of you.
Absolutely. Yes. Guys appreciate that. First of all, it's etiquette, and secondly, it makes the guy feel good. Like, hey, she had a good time with me. And regardless of how confident a guy is, it's always nice to hear from a woman, particularly a new woman that you have interest in, that she had a good time with you.
Exactly.
That's going to spur him on to ask you out. Out of all these tips, if you do that, I think you have the best chance of getting a second date. Provided that you guys connected during the day.
Exactly. Well, these have been some great tips. So, Robert, tell our audience how they can find you.
Well, the easiest place to find me and all of my information and my book, which is The Guy's Guide to Love, which go to my website, robertmanni.com, and all the information on my blog, my radio show, my novel, it's all there.
Great. Well, thanks everybody for joining us on the Single and Stiletto Show. If you like our show, it's available both in video format and podcast format. Our videos are available on singleandstilettos.com. If you'd like to get the podcast, you can download it from iTunes. And if you would like to get our free report on the top 10 secrets on what attracts a man and what turns him off, you can click right here on the video, or you can go to singleandstilettos.com.